Stampers, this is Sheila with Sheila's Stamping Wishes, and welcome to my video today. We're going to be making this card. It was a thank you card that I posted a couple of days ago on my blog, and I told you for sure this weekend I would definitely do a film on it. Really a real fun card, quick, simple, and yeah, so let's go ahead and get started. We are going to do this in a different color combination just for the fun of it and see how it comes out. So we're going to be using Blackberry Bliss, and so with it, and I'll have all of the measurements on the blog. This piece here is 1 1/4 by 5 1/4, and then your standard background base is 5 1/2 by 8 1/2 and scored at 4 1/4. And then we're going to have our petal pink, which is cut at 4 by 5 inch, 4 by 5 1/4 inches, sorry. Our shimmery white, this piece is cut at 2 1/2 by 3 3/4, and then we have a black basic black mounting, which we'll do at 2 3/4 by 4 inches. And then for our inside, I'm using the shimmery white, and you can probably see a little bit of the shimmery. That's my favorite. I probably do a lot of my stuff just with shimmery white, but that particular one is cut at 4 by 5 1/4, and then I have a scrap of Whisper White, which we'll be doing our butterfly on here. Okay, in laying out the butterfly, and let's go ahead and move some of this off to the side so I can show you some of the other pieces. But in using this one, you might notice that behind it is one of our wooden embellishments, and those come in, this is what they look like in our occasions, or not our occasions, but for our free items. Let me see where it is here in the catalog. You don't want to miss out on those. Those are some really pretty accents to go with your butterfly items. And when you get them, they're in sheets like this, but when you break them out, look at all the yummy pieces you get. I mean, all of these come in that one package there. So a lot of great things that you can do and embellish your card with. But today we're going to be using one of these little ones here. So let's go ahead and put this aside, but be sure and order $50 worth, and you can order any of the items in your celebration. And if you go to an order of 150 or more, then you can go, or $100 purchase. But if you're going to do that, you might as well do a complete party so you get some other free items as well. But you can get your tea time framelits, and I think there's one other item here. This stamp set here, gorgeous. I've used this one several times. So don't forget, this is celebrations time. It goes on from now until March 31st. Okay, so what stamp sets we're using today, this one happens to be the Hostess set that you'll find in the New Occasions catalog. So don't overlook this set. It is just so versatile and full of so many pretty stamp sets that you can do. I'm going to show you what I did with mine, though, is when I have stamp sets like this that are combined into one piece, I like to put my edging on, is what I did first, and then I like to trim off the wording, and this way I can mix match the different floral designs that they have in this stamp set and get a different one. So I'm going to show you real quick how I did that. If any of y'all have been in Stampin' Up! Long enough, these were the rubber scissors that we used to use, because in the old days, I should say, we used to have to cut our own stamps out, and so you needed the rubber scissors to do that with. But today we get them all pre-cut, which is wonderful. And but I still use those rubber scissors to this day for several different things. So let's go ahead and get this unpeeled here. Oops, taking off too much here. Okay, so that we can lay our stamp on. If you've not laid out any of the new cling stamps, be sure and do it the way that I'm showing you. I want to make sure I've got you in the frame here. You want to take and make sure that you line up exactly, don't lay it down, but line it up with where you know you're going to want that, because once it goes down, it is down for good, okay? So you line it up and then you just peel it right off and there it goes. And so what I do then is turn it around this way and I'll come right up next to the sentiment so I'm not cutting through any of my stamp bottom there. And then I'll go ahead and trim these little peak edges off because I don't need them. And so now I've got two different separate stamps, so I don't have to mask to, and that would be one of your other options. If you don't want to cut your stamp, you can go ahead and mask them. So because I've haven't used this one, I used this one on the other card, let's change it up. Yeah, let's change it up and use this other one here. And we're going to go ahead and keep with the theme of thank you because I'm making some thank you cards for my customers that have placed orders with me and some of my new demonstrators that have signed up with me recently. So I want to be sure and thank everybody for their business and for their faith in joining up with me. And so, okay, let's go ahead and get started. Why don't we go ahead and fold our cardstock, and I'm folding it in half, which is your 4 1/4. Use my bone folder and crease it down. And then we're going to go ahead and layer this piece on since we don't need to do that. If you're wondering what this is, it's a pretty neat little gadget that my upline, Dawn Griffith, gave all of her glitter queens. And I'm using hers, copying her idea. And for all my team members, they will be getting one of these as well. So it makes it real handy whenever you're stamping. You know how it is when you've got everything scattered on your table and then all of a sudden you can't find your adhesive or your piercing tool. You know how things get covered. Well, the adhesive is the one thing that I seem to, I don't know, visually can't see it as well, and so I end up losing it probably more often than anything else. So let's go ahead and put this down. There we go. And then this strip, we're going to go ahead and get it on down because we don't need it right now. And that way we've got this layering out of the way. And I'm being generous also with my adhesive because normally on these type of layering, when I'm not filming, I like to use the, move that down, went a little bit too far. I like to use my liquid adhesive, the Tombow, because I have time to maneuver my pieces if they're not lining up exactly. So there we go. So we're going to put that there and we're going to set it aside. Let's go ahead and do stamp the inside of our card. To do our inside of our card, if you remember, it's this pretty little thank you so much design with our little butterfly and the side piece there. And that comes from Beauty Abounds, one of our other cling mounts that are found in our occasions catalog and has become one of my favorites. So let's go ahead and stamp it. And I'll pull my Stamp-A-Braton out here. I always like to use it whenever I can, just so that I can restamp if I go too light when I'm stamping my greetings and stuff. So let's go ahead and pull out our stamp for that. Where's my thank you so much? Where did I've been using it. Oh, there it is. It's in another. Sorry about that. This is the third stamp set that I'm using, the Butterfly Gala. Wow, this one is an amazing stamp set, and it comes in a bundle with your punch. You need to put this on your list. It is, I have used it so many times, it's not even funny. It is truly my favorite of the Occasions catalog this year. Okay, so let's go ahead and lay this out how I want it to be, and I'm going to offset it a little bit this way, and the reason for that being is that I want to be able to put my block next to it. And let's see, I don't have my cushion under there, so let's go ahead and do that real quick. Or I'll tell you what we may do is go ahead and, since I don't have it on there because I have two different items that I can use, is using this stamp, we're going to go along the side. So why don't we go ahead and put it there, and it'll make it a little bit easier when we go to position. Now you can bring it in at an angle this way if you like. You can bring it in at an angle. I'm going to change it up a little bit, and I think go in an angle like so. Okay? And even though I'm going to put my mat in, I like to position where I know that I'm going to need those stamps, and that way I can come down with the extra one, and it will be already in position and ready to go. So we'll go ahead and put our other plate on, and you'll have to excuse me. I've got, from my old stamps that were not cling free, I had this plastic that helped to hold the stamp on, so I'll take that off. And we'll go ahead and layer this one on right there, because we know that's where we want that one, which we'll do after we put that on. And then we're going to put that back on here and do it. And I'm going to be using our Memento Black on it. Let's go ahead and put these down so that it doesn't move on us when we're doing it. So let's go ahead and stamp up our piece here. And be sure to allow it enough time to transfer that ink on over to your paper. And again, I'm using the shimmery white. You see that didn't go down real well there, so let's go ahead and put a little bit more pressure this time on it. That's the one thing that I've learned. Usually I don't try and put them in the corner, and the reason for that being is that I don't think you get quite as much pressure over here as you do in the further side of it, so you might want to try that out too. Okay, that looks good there, so let's go ahead and wipe off the ink on this, and we can move this on out of the way. And now we're going to add our padding, because whenever you're using photopolymer stamps, you've got to be sure and place that padding that comes with your Stamparatus. There again, if you have not purchased your Stamparatus, please do it. These positioners, stamp positioners like this, just save you so much, and plus it makes your cards look so professional because everything is lined up and ready to go. So definitely keep that in mind when you're in your next purchase if you haven't made it. So let's go ahead and you can kind of see, that's the nice thing about it, you can see where I didn't put as much pressure or leave it on quite as long. So that's what's nice about these stamping positioners, is that if you're, and I'm soft-handed when it comes to coloring and everything else, so it's a good idea if you are to be sure and use that. So let's go ahead and move this to the side. I better clean that off and put it over back into the deal so that we don't lose it. That's the one thing about photopolymers. I have a tendency, if you're not careful, they're clear, and if you haven't used them much, they'll be clear. And I have a tendency to sometimes misplace them. So, all right, so the colors that I'm using today in my blends are our two Blackberry Bliss combos, the light and the dark. I'm using the Granny Apple Green for the leaves, light and the dark, and then I'm using the Petal Pink in the light and the dark as well. Okay, so let's go ahead and on the flowers, we're going to go ahead and do them all in the light Blackberry Bliss, and then we'll come over and some dark in there too and bring them in. Okay. Now I'm going to go quiet here so I can speed this up, and because I know you don't want to spend this kind of time waiting on me to color this. And mount it into our card. So if any of you are thinking about becoming a demonstrator, my team's name is the Glitter Gems, and so when you receive one of these, the adhesive with the little clamp on it, it will have a gem on it, and they're real cute. And again, thank you, Dawn, because I use mine all the time, so I really do appreciate it. Let's go ahead and stamp our butterfly, and we're going to use, do we want to use one differently? Yeah, let's just see. I don't think I've tried this one, so let's try this one and see how it looks when it comes out. So let's go ahead and get one of our stamps out here. Good. Okay, and let's ink it up with some Tuxedo Black Memento. Make sure it's nicely covered. And again, you could use your positioner for this as well, but I think we'll just go ahead and give it a good stamp real quick. Okay, perfect. Okay, so let's go ahead and clean this off. I don't want to have my photopolymer stamps. And since we're using both of these colors, the blends of the Petal Pink and the Blackberry Bliss, I'm going to go with the darker, no, let's go with the lighter one, and then I can shade with the other. I'm going to go with the lighter one virtually all over, like so. And then I'm going to go outside the lines, because when I punch, I want the whole item to be colored, okay? And then what I'm going to do is come in with my a dauber and the Blackberry Bliss ink and kind of make a blend in the center of this. So I'm going to do it two different techniques here, one with my blenders and then one with my sponge dauber, okay? So this will kind of give me some of that color. And since these have different varying layers and stuff like that, I'm going to go ahead and use a little bit of my dark in there, just as a nice detail, but without really, showing a big difference in the lines or anything like that. It's a simple blend of your colors. Okay, so let's go ahead and get our Blackberry Bliss. Come on, there we go. And let's see where my sponge dauber is for it. There's my Blackberry, and I do like to label mine because I reuse them and until they're no longer can be used. So I like to take my first color off, and then I go in here and I do just kind of a circular motion, and I keep adding in that center until it's the depth of color that I want, that I'm looking for. And at some point, because again, we're blending into another color, so you can use like the edge and just go into the center to get you that deeper color, and then still have some of the lighter color there. And so on this one here, that's exactly what I'm going to do. I'm coming in on the edge of it because it's a much smaller stamp, because I don't want the whole stamp to be Blackberry Bliss. I want some of that Petal Pink to show it in as well, so I think that's good there. So let's go ahead and move this off and close our Blackberry Bliss up, and make sure I don't have any of my inks on me. Okay, and then we're going to take our punch and punch that out, and these are made to perfectly line in, and so you just want to line it up, and when you have it where you want it to be, then you're going to go ahead and punch it. And look how pretty these are. I just love this set. Okay, so then we have actually in the stamp set, you can put the little bodies onto the deal. So I'm going to use the main color here and the Blackberry Bliss. I knew there was a reason I wanted to leave that open, and I closed it anyway, but that's okay. It's a new stamp pad, so I'm needing to manipulate it a little bit to make it easier to open anyway. So it's just, again, a very subtle motion of its body there. You could offset that also with some black if you would prefer, but I wanted to use the Blackberry Bliss just to kind of give that shadow of effect that the center of its body is there. And we do have it for both sides sizes in that stamp set, so we can do it on our small one and then our large one. Okay. All right, so let's go ahead and move on here. And this time I think we are done here. So we're going to go ahead and take that off. And I'm going to set these aside to dry for a little bit because we are going to put some the Wink of Stella on it, and I prefer them to be a little bit dry when we do that. I'm going to take and use just some of my residue ink from my dauber of the Blackberry Bliss, so that when this is on there, if any of the wings come up, it'll still have some color behind it to give it that dimension. Okay, so our last stamping set that we need to do here is to use one of our Hostess items, the Just Because. And like I said, we're going to go ahead and do that, which is over here, and our thank you, which is right here. So let's go ahead. I like to do my thank you first because it does line up where I put my picture based on where my thank you is. So let's go ahead and line it up, and I like to use my grid paper and line it up, the stamp with that first, and then when I come down on it, then I feel like I have a better chance of keeping it straight. Now you could, because Blackberry Bliss is dark, you could use that, but I kind of like the black accent that just kind of pops off of it. So we're going to line this up here and come down here and press down and hold. Perfect. Okay, let's go ahead and now assemble. Let's see if I've got a big enough block here with me. Is that going to work? No, not quite big enough. I've got one of my other ones here. And no, this is not a Stampin' Up block, but sometimes because my classes, I had to real quickly pick up some blocks one time, and I picked these up, and so I do utilize them. But my preference is, and especially the ones that are coming out now with the pumpkin patch kits, love those flatter ones. They seem to work with my hands a little bit better. Okay, let's press down and hold. Perfect. Okay, so let's go ahead and start our coloring. I think what we're going to do is do our flowers. Let's do them in the 2 shades of our petal pink. We'll come in here with the light, and then we'll come back with the dark. And again, I'm going to probably speed this up, so I'm going to go quiet for a little bit while we finish this out, and I'll be back on in a second. So there's you see how quickly that just colors up. Now if you notice, when I was coloring this, I had stopped and got out my light petal pink, and the reason I did that is I didn't want a stark white line there for the highlight. I wanted the color combination we're using, so I colored the base like that, and then I came back over with the light Blackberry Bliss, and that's how I got this highlighting done. Now one of the things you can also do is you can lift some of the color out by just bringing your lifter in, and it'll lift some of the colors as well. So that there's 2 different ways that you can do your highlights that way. And because I like to ground my work, then I come out with some of the light smoky slate, and I just come around this to give the effects of the shadow and give it some grounding. Okay, all right, we're ready to adhere this onto our black, so let's go ahead and do that. And now all we have really is to assemble our last pieces, and we will have our card completed. Now, one of the things that I did do, we'll set this aside here for a minute, is I'm using the new flex ribbon that comes in your occasions catalog. Love, love, love this. Isn't that beautiful? And you can color the ribbon. So if you have different items that you're working with, then go ahead and color your ribbon and let it dry, and then you'll have that ribbon to match your card. Okay, but for today I want to leave it light with the white accent, and what I'm doing is I'm using the tear and tape on the back, and this will help give it a good sturdy support down, and I like to put that on generously. Go ahead and put it both, and then we'll run our bone folder over to make sure that it sticks well. And I'm going to be tying a little bit of our new olive green linen. I'm going to tie a little bow around the ribbon just as an accent before I put the butterfly on. So let's go ahead and we'll start here. Let's go ahead and lift. And sometimes it takes a little bit because when you're working with a material that's not solid, like the ribbon is not, it's a weave, then it has a tendency to want to remain on the sticky. So just reinforce pulling it. Once you get it started, it'll come off real nicely, just like we did here. Card, and it's not the full length, so I don't want to go, from one end to the other. I want to kind of balance it the best I can and press it down. Okay, and then our butterfly is going to go on next, and I do want to go ahead and get my Stella on it, and I will show you, even though we're not using the big one, and we could use the big one in here, and we may do that just so it has a place, but I use them for my other cards that I'm doing, so I do hold on to them when I'm only using one piece or the other. So there's our Stella. I wish that sometimes the film would pick up, and do clean up your brush if you get any ink color into it, but I wish that they would pick up the Stella a little bit better. But my phone, I don't know if you can see that up close if I get too close to it, but it just adds to the finished touches of it. So let me get my glue dots out here. There we go. And I'm going to put a glue dot on the back of this one, and we will give it a little bit of a bend there in the center, and then place it onto the wood. And then I'm going to use a couple of my and you could use actually a piece of your tear and tape back there as well, but I'm using a couple of the glue dots just to secure, make sure it's secured on its wings, and two in the center. There we go. And then I'm going to put it about so. Okay, and then our final piece is going to go in here, which is to line this up. And again, it's your preference on how far over you move it. I like to leave a little bit of the both colors so it shows up but on the side of the card. So let's go ahead and do this. All right, so let's go ahead and I want a little bit of the petal pink and the blackberry bliss showing on this side and on there. Perfect. Isn't that gorgeous? All right, so in here, I said we'd utilize this. I think this is a perfect place for it, don't you? Okay, so let's bend the wings just a little bit and get back to our glue dots. Are perfect for placing items like this that are small and you want it to be attached well. So let's go ahead and bring this in and we have a finished card. Isn't that just absolutely gorgeous? Well, thank you again for stopping by, and be sure and visit my blog, and I would love to hear from you, any comments, any suggestions, and if you are wanting to become a demonstrator, be sure and click my button, and I'll get right back to you. Leave your information where I can contact you, and I'd love to talk to you about it. And if you don't have a demonstrator and you'd like to place an order or need some catalogs, please let me know that too. There's a link to my store as well. Until next time, happy stamping, and God bless you.